Zohar Sulam, Parashat Balak, talking about the paragraph Zain. It's called Ma'amar Sichon Ve'og, and now we're going to read the explanation of Ashlag, trying to understand this little piece that we learned in the morning, which talks about the idea that Moses and Israel, they destroyed the city of the king Sichon, which is like the letters of Hussein, you know. And his capital city was called Heshbon, and it was also called the city of Sichon. So there's always talking about this idea that these kings, Sichon and Og Melech HaBashan, which were destroyed by Israel on the other side of the Jordan, on the way to Israel, because we had no intention of conquering the other side, just happened, so to speak, by Ashgacha. So the whole thing was that it started with a verse in Tehillim that God says, certainly I shall bring back those who were killed at the Bashan. I will bring them back from the depths. Those who were killed by the Bashan. And so they said the Bashan, these are these kings of Og Melech HaBashan and Sichon Melech HaEmori.
They are kings of what?
Bashan, the other one.
So who are they?
They were kings on the other side. So the Zohar was talking about them as being very powerful, being at the root, a very powerful root, and therefore maybe even Moses was afraid to take on Og, and so they quote different verses which are in this parasha, and after the Heshbon, the city of Heshbon, the city of Sichon was destroyed. So it's as if there is a statement over there, Bo na'alech Heshbon, tivaneh v'tikoneh ir Sichon. Let's go back up to Heshbon and rebuild and re-establish the city of Sichon. And so the Zohar simply says that they, once they did that, then they keep saying that we cannot build it up because the fire came out from the city of Heshbon and a flame from the city of Sichon. So meaning that the up in the upper worlds there were such a great judgments against this place that they will definitely not be able to establish it as a capital city of the king of Sichon, and of course not also as simply a city, just a city to live. Also they will not be able to establish because they realized that there was a tremendous judgment against this place, so they were not able to rebuild it, even just for simple.
Just as the story goes, right? We didn't have to fight these guys, right? They weren't.
Right, we didn't have to fight. No.
And what was the problem? We wanted to just pass by, and they were scared. So they attacked. They figured.
They attacked us
because they thought we were going to attack them.
Edom was sitting on the south side of Israel, right, and we were not given permission by God to fight Edom because they're our brother. Yeah.
So we had to bypass them.
We had to bypass, so we had to go to the other side. They didn't attack us because we didn't go through them. We wanted to go through them. They let us pass.
They were ready to attack us.
So as we went to the other side of the Jordan, we asked permission from these people to go through them. They said, no, if you try to go through me, we'll come out to fight you. And so some certain places God says, no, you can fight them, it's okay. Some places they tell, no, you can't fight. So this is how we came to fight these people on the other side and inherit the land on the other side. And then Reuven and Reuven, Gad, and half of Menashe, they wanted to settle there because there was a lot of grasslands or whatever, right? So this is how. So the question of what made these people such tremendous judgment against these kings. And why were they so powerful that even Moses was afraid? So Ashlag, we're going to learn something that Ashlag explains in abstract terms, and it's important to understand because Ashlag always repeats the main principles. So it's easy to understand. If you slowly pick up these principles and you repeat them over and over again, that's very important in Kabbalah, to repeat the language of the Kabbalah so that eventually it sinks in, you know. So good Kabbalists like Rabbi Yosef Chaim, the Ben Ish Chai, when he gives kavanot, he always repeats the words, certain words, the same words, so that you can understand, slowly pick up the main aspects of the Kabbalah. So Ashlag goes like this. Pirush, he explains. This is page 7, Zain, on the right-hand column, the bottom. We explained previously that Moses killed the kings of the Amori. Amori also means to speak, to say. Emor, right? So they were big talkers. They had the powers with their mouths, right? He killed them, how? By awakening the left side of the line of wisdom, of holiness. These bringing down this line of Kedusha, of wisdom, you bring down great judgments against the evil ones and the negative, the external forces, that they bring down wisdom from up down. So Moses, by his wisdom, holy wisdom is from bottom up. That's holy wisdom. Unholy wisdom is from the top down. It's like that's okay. This is why you have to use your imagination. This is why Kabbalah you have to use.
It's also holy, but the question is, what do you do with it?
Well, it's a problem now because he says because
you have no kelim maybe to receive it.
So the point is that Ashlag always makes the emphasis is that by having these
סליחה על ההפרעה, אתם לא משאירים פה כסף, כן? אתה יודע, היה פריצה בבית כנסת בחורשה? היה שם כסף, כן?
היה פריצה.
כן, יש כסף קטן, זה לא...
שכח, תודה.
Simply the idea is what we always say again and again, the wisdom from top down is the idea that people, you know, all of a sudden have all sorts of ideas, concoct all sorts of ideas, write books, and people follow these ideas, and these ideas are usually, they don't come to their minds because they have great experiences and great tradition. It's like learning medicine, you know. Usually medicine, you know, is something that built up over a long time, and you use experience, intuition, knowledge. We're talking about people pulling down all sorts of concepts from above and running their life and the world according to these concepts. These concepts, this usually become what we call pesel masecha. We call it like an ism, right? People bring up all sorts of ism, right? Communism, socialism, right? Zionism, Judaism, meaning they have some sort of a concept which is, it's not really based on total understanding of life. It doesn't come from a state of humility when you learn from other people, analyze, talk, much more passive state. So these things are very dangerous. This is why in politics it's very rough, because people come in certain concepts, and when you come at these certain concepts, like you're on a certain party, right? So you will arouse against you other parties, because it doesn't come from a understanding among all people. It's just my concepts, and this God calls pesel masecha. This is the the second commandment, do not make a mask or an idol or a ism to cover up my face. Because my face is everywhere, right? So if you just choose a certain path, a certain idea or ism, and usually an ism means that you close it up into a very confined definition of what I want and everything else I don't want, so to speak, right? So this is the idea of pulling down wisdom. It's not really wisdom, but Ashlag calls it wisdom. It means you're putting down from your left brain, from your left mind, a certain conception, right? And we know sometimes conceptions can give you a lot of troubles, right? And this is what he calls the wisdom of the left side. Okay, so he says the first thing that you realize, according to this tradition, that as much as you strive always to understand things, to really solve the walls of the problem, you cannot know it. You can only know it by Ruach HaKodesh, intuition, prophecy. You have to get guidance from God, right? And so he says that as long as you strive within time and space and mundane things to try to solve the problems of the world, this is not possible, and also brings down a lot of judgments, because we are guiding the world by how do you say, trial and error all the time. Because you can never get the total picture, the full understanding of the situation. So he says in what we learned in Ashlag's way of analyzing these things is that the first thing, you must give up your love for your own mind and conceptions, right? In the sense of looking at these things as real reality. This is the real situation, this is the way we'll do things. And this is the story of the Akedah of Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac. That Isaac is symbolized for the left brain, for the left arm. Abraham is the right, compassion and love. And that God tells Abraham, I know you loved your son, your unique son and so forth. I want you to raise him up. It doesn't say sacrifice, it says aleu la'olah, raise him up. Raise him up, and this is the idea that also Abraham, when he was coming to Israel, he got stuck in Haran, city of Haran. So why was it? Haran means anger also, right? Because his natural inclination of Abraham was love and compassion for everyone, and then he was also using his left brain to analyze, to understand the world, And because he was using the left brain, he got into a place of a lot of judgment, which we call Haran. Because this is what happens usually, even when you're spiritual. If you don't get into the very, very high state of spirituality, the light which you received comes down to your normal consciousness. And your normal consciousness was never holy in the first place, right? Because you didn't know how to purify it, right? So that the light that you had gets stained by your conceptions, by your ego and so forth, right? And so that the whole process of purifying the left brain is getting into a place of surrender and humility. That you even surrender all my knowledge, even the things that I know, my concepts, I surrender to you. So that now you are not relying on your wisdom in the sense of the essence of the wisdom, but more in an emotional state. You're much more quiet. You might have a great idea, then you come to the VAD, to the board, and you discuss it. The board says, well, we don't really like it, we're not going to do it. So you have to be humble enough not to do it. If you come and force it, and usually you will raise a lot of antagonism, because this is what it means, pulling down wisdom from above. Meaning really left brain wisdom, you will awaken a lot of judgments in the world.
By above, you're not referring to Shimon, you're referring to your head.
Head, yeah. It is a natural state. This is what we have to recognize. We are in a human body, and there's natural functions in biology, that we have the right brain, left brain. The right brain, as I always say, is something new. I mean, the dominance of the right brain in Adam was something very new. This is why we say Adam is something new. Creation of Adam, because before that, the left brain was dominant. 274 generations before Adam, all these humanities were left brains, very powerful judgments, scientists, but very not compassionate, not loving. And so Ashlag says that the real tzaddikim are really successful in doing something which has long-standing effect, like the Bible, Moshe Rabbeinu, or the tzaddikim that kept Israel going, because they're very humble. Okay, so that they don't rely on my knowledge, my conceptions, They are very humble and they surrender, first of all, and they rely much more on what we say, Ruach HaKodesh. As most of the time the Chami says, well, the halacha is the halacha with this guy because they got it by Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh you get from being passive, from being humble, and so forth. So he says that these kings were very powerful because they did know how to pull down. They were able to, like let's say Caesar, I always say, very sharp mind, analyzing weaknesses of human beings and causing them to fight each other, and also know how to be a general. No, they do say that most of the time that even that he got from Allah, Ruach HaKodesh, so to speak.
No, well, there's a different kind of thing that actually my halacha teacher said that when people came to ask him questions, sometimes he would have an influence from heaven that he would forget something, but the answer he gave was the correct answer for that person.
Yeah.
That was a Ruach HaKodesh.
Like, the same. Even people when they write, even though they analyze, as like we said yesterday with Rabbi Zain, people think that they know exactly whatever they write and think and do is their rational mind is running it, but it's not.
Influenced,
And if your ego attaches too much to that knowledge, this is pulling it from up down, and you stick to it, and you don't want to listen to other things, you want to learn other things, then you're in trouble. Okay, and this is what happens in the world usually. I have my ideas. I want to be the Rosh Memshala. I want to run the company, so I by force I do things, and usually these things eventually have to break down because it is not done with the real flow of God's will, meaning that God has a goal, and so you have to get in tune with the goal. Sometimes your idea is in tune for a little while, And eventually, this is why all these nations in the ancient time, they disappeared, even though they were powerful, right? Because they came with these isms. They had certain concepts and said, this is how we will run the world, and it breaks down.
You know what's interesting about that? The Roman Empire lasted much longer than all the others, and they let people be. They weren't like the Greeks that came in and said, okay, be the way I want to be. They're like that. They had that weird type of letting things. They weren't static in that sense. And it lasted 1,000 years, much longer than the rest of them.
1,000 years? No, not 1,000 years. No.
לא.
500 years, maybe 600 years, yeah.
600 years is a lot.
It's a lot, more or less.
For a world power, I'm saying.
לא, יותר.
לא, לא יותר. לא. הם התחילו, maybe one, started when? About 100, 200 BC. And they were the Visigoths came and conquered the 300, 400 AD,
476.
But they were falling.
Make a difference. The point is that they lasted longer. They had that. They weren't static in that sense. They let the people.
Because we know that his head is holy. The Western Esav's head is holy. Their mind, left brain is very important. Don't.
Right.
I'm not trying to say. Yeah.
Built good roads.
No. The left brain is a must because Isaac is the seed of Abraham. But in order to purify the left brain, it must be completely under the control of your compassionate, merciful being. This is why we say only Rabbi Akiva went into Pardes in peace and he came out in peace, because the other guys are much more relying on their left brain. Okay, he was from side of water, from compassion, and they were still relying too much on their left brain. Okay? And this is the whole story of the...
תבונה כאילו?
תבונה, כן, תבונה, בינה, בינה. בינה מנותקת מחוכמה ומרחמים וחסד, yeah.
Well, emotional intelligence, you say.
To get emotional intelligence, you must have the left brain intelligence, but you must give it up. In the sense of, I learn all the time Torah, but I have to listen to, I have to listen to God and say, well, talk, don't talk, shut up. I can't put I can't get my ego attached to this knowledge. And this is what happens too much, that you have knowledge, and so, I know, so I tell you what to do, right? Because I know. Even though you have to be very humble and says, well, bring it up before the people. Let's see what we can do. Is it, right? So this is already much more a different level of trying to run the world, because you have to have a consensus. This is what is consensus? Consensus, the Tikkunei Zohar says, halacha kerabim, the halacha goes according to the majority. Why? Because Shekhinah with the Rabim. The Shekhinah, the presence of God is with the majority, right? And the majority of what? So the Gaon of Vilna says the majority, well, in Israel you need, like in the Torah, 600,000 souls, right? And so they ask, men and women? You mean men like in the Torah, right? We only count men. No, it says men and women, 600,000, right? And you see that you had the establishment of the state of Israel. He says you need the world's permission. So after the Shoah, the United Nations voted for Israel. That's number one. And the second, and the second thing was that most of them were not even religious. So what do you mean the Shekhinah is with the Rabbim? Even though they were not religious, the Shekhinah...
That's a summer line, isn't it?
It's a Gemara.
But it's a three
It's possible the Gemara. We'll find the Gemara. But the main thing was that even though the people were not religious here, the Shekhinah was with the Rabbim. What is Rabbim? Not Am Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz necessarily, the majority, right? The majority of the people. You had 600,000, which is already a number. Now God goes with the Shekhinah, with the Halacha, with the religious, non-religious, nothing to do with... So this is the idea to understand.
That's one of the ways they start.
למה הכנסת?
religion,
לא religion.
Yeah.
No one passes.
Okay, let's go.
The basis, yeah. But not obviously.
Okay, so the Shekhinah is with the Rabbim. This is the main thing. So the Rabbim doesn't have to be according to my definition. This is what I'm trying to stress, that Israel was founded by mostly non-religious people, and the Shekhinah is with the Rabbim. It's like the Gaon of Vilna says, you have to have 600,000. And this is the way it goes. It goes with the Rabbim. So God, I think, well, Rabbim is only people that do halacha and things like that, or religious. No. God is, is better than I do. He can check my heart, your heart, his heart. I can't. Okay? So this is the very important concept, Shekhinah im Rabbim. Shekhinah is the majority. Right? And, okay, so let's try to go back. So he says, Al yedei terut ha'chokhmah dekav smol dekdusha. Moses, by awakening the left side of wisdom, of holy wisdom, from the bottom up, meaning he's passive. He's talking to God. God told him, don't be afraid of them, fight them. You can go fight them. שעימם נמשכים בית דינים על ראש הרשעים והחיצוניים הממשיכים החוכמה ממעלה למטה. By doing the proper things, by holy wisdom, meaning passive wisdom and listening to God, what has to be done, right? We're always talking about these very, very borderline cases, right, of the Maccabim fighting the Greeks, and then Rabbi Akiva thinking that Bar Koziba is the Messiah. All these things, great people. It's not easy, right? Depending how passive you are, right? You have to really be very careful. Your wife is. Chokhmah mimala lamata. So there's two types of judgments when you do that, when you are pulling down judgment or wisdom from up, down. You're relying too much on yourself. You're not passive enough in a sense. Dinim de tchura, the male judgments which come down simply by relying too much on your concepts, and this is called male judgments. Bet hem dinim de nukva. The second is judgments of the female. What does that mean? So there's two types of judgments coming down. One that I think I'm very smart, and I have these intelligence notions, and by relying on my intelligence, I'm saying, I'm going to do this and that because I know.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, so I will do it. And, well, I can succeed, but eventually judgments will come down. Because I rely too much on my ego, and my ego there's no place for God when you do that.
And even if you're doing the right thing and everything else, you're still going to get judgments?
Yeah. For the time being, you can get judgments, especially when you're relying too much on your ego, meaning that... the second one is dinim de nukva. Dinim de feminine judgments are different. Feminine judgments is the opposite situation. Male judgments, I'm always looking for my wisdom, I'm analyzing things. Female judgments, I don't want to accept anymore anything from. This is like the Tzimtzum Aleph. Tzimtzum, God contracting himself, right? And so there's a natural limit, this is what we call a death, that people say, well, I'm old, I can't learn anymore, so they're dying, they're death, right? This is Tzimtzum, this is the feminine, that you are not willing anymore to participate and grow. You say, I know what I know, this is it, no more. Don't bother me with any more knowledge, with facts, as we say, right? This is the feminine judgment. You say, no, I don't want to listen to you guys, I know. And this is simply a feminine judgment, that people die because of this.
And what the masculine was what? That I had great...
That you are always pulling down all sorts of ideas and you rely on your ideas, And eventually it also causes the feminine, so it says, well, I have, because most of us, we have a certain concept of what life is all about, and then you get older and says, well, I don't understand what's going on in the world, so you become passive and you don't want to listen to these young falutin people, and So this is you put up the screen. You're not listening to anybody anymore. You're not participating anymore. This is the lagad tzimtzum, the first contraction. The malchut, my kingdom. So me, Aryeh says, I'm not listening to anybody anymore. So this is the feminine. I'm becoming passive by not receiving anymore. I'm not willing to receive anymore. So this is death. This is another sort of death, that we always try to use our intelligence to understand, to recheck our notions, so that this is how we hide the masach, we hide the screen, we hide our threshold under intelligence, meaning we're always trying to, okay, I listen to you, let's go. So I'm not passive. I'm saying I don't want to listen anymore. I'm covering up my malchut, my identity, with intelligence. I'm always listening to re-grind, re-understand. So we cover up the malchut, the tzimtzum aleph, this contraction, we cover it up with bina. This is what Ashlag says. We always go up to the world of intelligence, and this is why we hide our limitations, our tendency not to receive anymore, which is death, because God's name is becoming, always becoming. You can't say, well, this is it, no more. You always have to be flexible, always move, right? This is the basic principles. We elevate our malchut to bina. Elevate my consciousness, my present consciousness, which is me. I am the king, right? King of myself. I raise my consciousness up to bina, to understand, well, I'm limited, so I'm going to try to learn more, right? I'm going to try to pick up from other people, whatever, right? So this is you covering up your limitations, the masach, which causes death. You're covering it up with bina, intelligence. This is the idea that in God's name, Tetragrammaton, and the two hays are the two feminine. So the lower feminine, God made a block on it. In order for God to appear in the world, the Malchut of infinity says, I'm not receiving your light anymore, so that, because if I receive your light, everything comes back to an ocean of light. Nothing can be created. So we covered up that screen, which refuses by intelligence, by constantly learning new and new things. We hide that screen. So when that screen becomes, when you stop hiding it, then death comes upon you. Okay, in the real sense, wars or things like that, because you have not been listening to the world. You said, no, I'm not going to listen to the world. I know the way things should be done. You know, without great isms. It's simply that we absorb things from the world, right? We absorb things from the world, and we have a hidden concepts, as like Rabbi Zach said, which runs us and eventually causes our death. Because we don't want to be flexible anymore. This, I said, this is part of the Shoah thing. The people said that this great artist, the Jewish artist, he would draw all sorts of, I forgot his name, it was very famous. Jewish people, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, famous artist. You see, when you look at the eyes, people said, look, people's eyes are dead.
Oppenheimer.
I forgot his name. Moritz, maybe.
Moritz is one. Oppenheimer.
That you can see that people are dead already.
Yeah.
Because they are so inside the galut mentality, and they're not listening to anybody anymore. So when the Zionists came around, they were not listening. This is the malchut. This is the feminine judgments, that you are not willing to listen to anybody, and you are manifesting this screen of God, or the original screen of God, that the malchut of infinity says, I'm not going to receive your light anymore, right? Because otherwise I cannot create the world. And when this screen is manifesting, my ego, my self, my subconscious self says, no, the world is going down to pot. I have nothing to learn anymore over here, you know, I'm not going to listen to anybody. This brings about death in the real sense. Physical, you become depressed, and also the galut, you get stuck in places where you shouldn't be. So this is the feminine aspect of galut.
Right, I told you that famous story about I was a very good friend of the Gerrit Tzedek, and when he got married, his family wasn't Jewish, and they came over from Holland, and his sister said, the Jews are alive. I thought it was the most amazing statement, because prior to that in Europe, I guess when she saw Jews, they weren't alive. When she came to Israel, she saw the Jews, and she said, the Jews are alive. I said, wow, it takes someone like that to make you understand exactly what's going on. Quite amazing. Amazing thing.
Right. Okay. So there's two types of judgments, bringing down male judgments from above. When you rely too much on your left mind, your isms, your conceptions. This is what happens to Yom Kippur War. We said, no way those Arabs going to attack us. I mean, there's no way. So we are so powerful, right?
Generals went to
And this is a conception. We call it conceptia. This the Israelis call this. The conception. This is what...
They do call it the conception.
Yeah,
right?
the conceptia.
היום יש דברים אחרים
זה לא חשוב. זה הגאווה. The main thing was the ego. It was so powerful. Who is going to dare attack me? Unfortunately, also this girl soldier that was killed says, no one can she said that very out loud, you know. This was one of her... This is also a very, very, very deep thing. No one can overtake me. No one can take me, you know. There's a certain Israeli phrase, no one can take me, no one can touch me. And she was killed, you know, by stabbing, you know. But this is the idea of Pesel Masecha, concepts, ideologies. And people love ideologies, you know. Ideologies is really comes to the word idol. You know. You have a certain concept, you think this is, you know, this is a big problem. So these are two things in Ashlag, very important to understand these things. again and again. So he says like the Kvar Yadata, you already know. Of course, everybody knows. They always say that. The left, we're on the left column now, page 7. Shamshachat HaChochma nikret cheshbon. Bringing down wisdom from the left side is called cheshbon. Cheshbon has the word in it. Modern Hebrew, it means mathematics. And it comes from the words to think, okay? So these two kings were thinking, big thinkers. They knew how to think. They knew how to, like Caesar, they know how to look at the world, analyze the world, and know the weaknesses and the strength. And they were very powerful because of that, right? So we were afraid to fight them. Because we said, these guys were not just simple, someone you can just run over, right? So cheshbon. And there's quite a lot of stuff in Kabbalah and cheshbon.
Another reason he might have been afraid is not one of the seven. When you're commanded to the 7 nations, God said, "I'm going to help you defeat the 7 nations." He didn't say anything about everybody outside.
Right. Yeah.
Versus David HaMelech didn't make cheshbon. He went to Goliath, he didn't make cheshbon.
It's not part of the proof.
Whether he's stronger, he's weaker, he can do it, he cannot do it.
It's faith, yeah.
He didn't make cheshbon.
But when it came to Amalek, I said the other day, when it came to Amalek, when they grabbed his family and us, and then Urim v'Tumim, he said, Amalek? No, that I must ask God for sure, אז זה שלב.
הוא עדיין didn't think.
לא, זאת אומרת שנגד עמלק הוא לא עשה סתם מלחמה, הוא כבר נזהר, כן. אוקיי, וזה סוד שליטת סיחון בחשבון. And this is the secret of the control of the king, Sichon, right? Which also has very close to the word siach, to talk, speak. Yeah? Sichon becheshbon. Why this king was so powerful, and we call his city capital Cheshbon. Having to do with thought. היינו שהיה ממשיך החוכמה שנקראת חשבון ממעלה למטה. Because he was powerful. You might say also, you look at also the Germans, that they understood the material realm very well, human weaknesses, right? All sorts of things like that. So they were pulling down these thoughts from above, right? And this is what he says, the king was very powerful because pulling down this wisdom from above. You can see that the soccer teams now, okay? The Germans, they're very powerful in soccer because they really know how to analyze. They're amazing people as far as that. And Julius Caesar were like that. The Romans were like that. Analysis of weaknesses and strength. So this is, I guess, now we understand better why they made such a big deal in the Zohar about this simple little story about these kings, So pulling down wisdom from above is called cheshbon. ולפיכך יצאו הדינים מקו השמאל לקדושה. So eventually, because you are so egoistical or so dependent on yourself, eventually the holiness, meaning God's plan, His wisdom, because the long-term plans, which your short-term plans were not actually parallel or congruent with God's plan, the holy plan eventually takes over and destroys you, right? This is what he says, the left line of holiness comes and destroys this kingdom of Cheshbon, of the klipa, of the husks. וכיוון שראו זאת מלכי שאר האומות, because the kings of the other nations saw, חשבו שעיר חשבון עצמה אי אפשר להציל מדינין דשמאל קדושה. Well, maybe we cannot really save this city, generally speaking, as far as being the capital of, let's say, like the Roman Empire, Okay, they were great thinkers, so the impressive aspect of the Roman Empire was destroyed forever. Thought, because in Italy you don't have any great
Oh, excuse me. Wait a second. What are you going to say? Let's hear what he says. Don't let him get away with it. What do you say about
Don't have any
great artists, great inventors, machazil.
Yeah. You see in Italy.
Only one name, Leonardo da Vinci.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it. Every city claims Da Vinci. 3-4 different cities. Da Vinci was here. No,
Well, it's like also the Greeks. They'll talk about the democracy which they invented
Another one, Dante Alighieri.
2,000 years ago, but you see in modern history, you see that Greece and Rome, in Italy, in modern history, there's no, Italy and Greece, in modern history, they forgot a long time ago, right?
Ramchal
is from Padua.
he used to write plays also.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Like secular, like Yiddish theater?
No, but they were, I think the principles were Kabbalistic principles, but they were characters, sounds.
Very clever. But that's a Teonian move, by the way.
What's that?
And Teon. If you're going to write plays for the mass public with principles based in Torah haZohar, that's very Teonian.
Yeah, because
He would have loved that Teon.
his wife was the master. In Ramchal, you still see it it's not subtle.
It's not subtle. So you did it an obvious, okay.
But this was written by Teon's wife, never by Teon. And she's a woman.
Yeah.
And this was by Ruach HaKodesh, literally.
I was just talking more about the methodology.
Anyway, what I wanted to say was that these empires that were very powerful also with the left brain, which is Greek, and Roman, as far as once they fell. They never nothing great out of them anymore, They were not the power anymore as a country, somewhere. So they thought, just like Rome and Greece, that was resettled and people lived there, even though the Visigoths destroyed Rome as an entity, a power entity, and the Greeks were destroyed. But as far as normal settlements, Germany as well, right? This is what I mean. So they thought, maybe we cannot reestablish Heshbon as a capital of power again, but at least let's see if we can reestablish it simply as a country living. So they said no. So he says, "V'tibaneh b'chinat ir moshav stam." So maybe we'll be able to reestablish this place as a city for the Amorites. Not everybody was killed by Israel, Shelo yamshichu od chokhmah shu sodom. Mean we'll just be nice, quiet settlers like the Italians and the Greeks, and nobody will bother us. We're able to live, and they do live, right? Ela yistabku be'otah chokhmah she'neglat b'hem michvah. Says we will rely on what we were once great, exactly, right? So that the Greeks and the Romans, they rely on the old history, and they're nothing special anymore. But v'chashvu she'ir moshav kazu efshar livnot. They thought that even though it was destroyed, they will be able to resettle and live. V'zeh shekatuv, this was the Zohar says, b'shat adinun amrin, when they were saying, tibaneh v'tikonen ir sichon, that they didn't mention Heshbon anymore as the powerful capital city, but the city of Sichon, the city of the king that used to live here, just a simple city, stam, simply, v'lo amru Heshbon, without mentioning Heshbon, amru kach. They said so, mishum dechashivu, the begin kach idbana lemutva damoa. Maybe we'll be able to reestablish simply as a settlement, because usually you think, that in the beginning they thought maybe we can reestablish our power base. They realized they can't, so they just establish it as a simple city. Da'aynu moshav la'amori ve'lo Heshbon, not the great capital anymore, just simple city. Shelo yamshichu yoter chokhmah mimala mata. They will just live a simple life anymore, passive like everybody else. No great concept. V'chashvu she'az lo yishlot aleim adinim. And they thought that there would be no more judgment, because now they are passive, right? They are not relying anymore on their great ideas anymore. We just live. Umnam kedei ativu ve'amru lo yachinu. Then they realized, because they saw that the great holiness of Moses and Israel, it wasn't just simply fighting other nations, which they fought each other back and forth, as the story goes, right? We send in the Haftarah. right? That 300 years later, the Ammonites come and want to fight the Israelis on the other, the left, and the other bank, and because they thought that everything is simply, you beat me once, I'll beat you, and this, But they realize, לא יכינו, דהיינו שהסתכלו בדבר ואמרו שאפילו עיר מושב אינם יכולים. They realize they can't even resettle here simply. What's the reason? My time. begin דכל אורחים בשביל הסתתמו בתוקפא דרב ילד אלהום. Because all of the paths and all of the roads were stopped up, just like the Philistines stopped up the walls. They realized that there's no way. This is not just another country like Moab and Ammon fighting each other. That since you fought Moses and Israel, there's no way. This is because this is already in flow with God's will, with a higher wisdom, a holy wisdom, right? Because this is done by a great masterful Rav פירושו הרת החוכמה שבשמו. בסוד הכתוב יש לי רב, in the secret of the great master wisdom, which is God, and flowing through Moses. This is impossible to overcome that. In the sense of, in the beginning, Venoda, he says, who said Yesh li Rav?
Who is it, Yaakov?
This is Esav. Jacob says Yesh li Kol. I have everything.
Well, it was the opposite. What you think? No, but it's what you're saying is the logic.
Yeah.
Why is it logical that you would say that?
Because he was thinking.
Kol, you think it's a gaiva, but really he meant whatever I have, that's okay.
No, he has the Kol. I have the Yesod.
Right, he's got the Yesod, right?
I have the Yesod. I mean, whatever I have, like Ezu Ashir, Asameach Bechelko.
Yeah.
Whatever I need, I have Kol. I don't need anything more.
What's Yesh li Rav?
Rav, I have a lot, and I can get more. I can give you more because I have a lot.
Gaiva.
It's Gaiva. Kol, I mean, I'm happy. Like who is rich? I'm satisfied with whatever you have. Kol, I have enough. Whatever I need. And as I've said, I have a lot. I can give you. I don't need your stuff, so to speak, in that sense. ונודע שלדהרת השמאל בלי ימין שלמעלה, when you pull down this wisdom of the left, meaning the intelligence, the rational mind, the logical mind, the discriminative mind, without love and compassion, this is the main problem. That people, we have become so in love with our own conceptions, we forget that the concepts are here maybe to help the other, and not for me to become the dictator around the world. This is what, and you forget, you detach yourself from the right line. נסתמו כל האורות ונקפאים. When you come from that state that you are so certain of your concepts, and you're going to run the whole show by your concept, he says this causes a stopping up, like the pipelines become stopped up, and also frozen, because you have in the chariot of Yecheskel, right? Chariot of Yecheskel, you have the Ofanim, the Chayot. Above them you have the Kerach HaNorah, the terrible ice. Okay. Because the Chayot and the Ofanim are the emotions. And the Kerach HaNorah are in the level of mind. So you say, your mind is like frozen, stopped up, The water, the chesed, which you were supposed to have, to give your concepts to help the world, you are now becoming a dictator. There's no more emotional intelligence, there's no more love and water. It's frozen. This is also a very tremendous concept in the Kabbalah from the terrible ice, coldness of mind, coldness. Your emotions are no more emotional intelligence, right? He says this is what happens when you pull down these concepts from the left side, right? It stops up the flow in you, the water. And we have to warm up the water so begin flow again. Yashev rucho izlu mayim. If you let God's wind blow, then you melt the ice and there will be wisdom with compassion. Okay? וכיוון שנסתמו האורות ונקפאו, since these waters were stopped up, the pipelines of your mind were stopped up, and they got frozen, לא יכלו עוד לבנותה אפילו לעיר מושב סתם. They were not able to rebuild it even to a simple settlement, right? וזה שכתוב דכל היום בשבילים הסתתמו. This way it says all of the roads and the paths were stopped up, כי נקפאו ונסתמו. They were frozen and they were completely stuck. כל הדרכים והשבילים עד שאין לעשות כלום. There's nothing you can do anymore. Complete breakdown. בתוקפא דרב הילה עד אלוהים. מחמת תוקף הדנים של השמאל העליון שלהם. Because of the root of their conception of the world and life and so forth, it was so judgmental that they completely broke them down. דהיינו של שמאל בלי ימין. Because they were completely left brain without any right. שמשם נמשכים ונמשכים. This is the place of all the negative forces pulled down. ואחר שראו קיפאון הזה, אמרו, after they saw this frozen wasteland of mind, right? They say, הנה עדר ונעימה ונתקע חשבון.
Take you back there. What do you mean בתוקפא דרב?
He didn't translate it really right.
Rav is the idea of Esav, saying, יש לי רב. I have this tremendous wisdom.
בתוקפא דרב,
Yeah.
with the toikef of gaiva.
Oh, of Gaiva.
Gaiva, and think that my conceptions, my knowledge, this is the root of things, and this is the way the world runs, right? And because you are so relying on your gava, this is why Rome fell. Because they thought that they have the basic idea of what human life is all about. This is why all nations eventually fall. Because it's very, very mundane, very materialistic. And God's plan for us is not to make a beautiful materialistic Garden of Eden, but is to evolve human consciousness. So the material plane just serves human consciousness, the flow and evolvement. If your conceptions don't help that evolvement, right, then eventually break down, will be destroyed, right? And this is what actually happened in the Western world, and we actually took on the left brain of Esav, the Jews, right? Because wherever empire we went into, we picked up all of their advantages, sometimes also negative things, but this is why the Jews are so successful in all aspects of life, because we did learn to use in Israel, the arms of Esav, so to speak, right? To fight war, relearn how to fight a war, and to use the left brain of the world, right? The great Jewish scientists, they were using these things, but very mundane, so unfortunately, it didn't really serve its purposes, even though it came from Jewish, right? A lot of destruction came from Marx, Freud. People don't realize how much.
I think it's they got sucked in by the, like Einstein,
Yeah.
that whole chabura, they regretted working on the...
Right, as I always said that. All of these guys, most of them are Jewish, and Feynman says, why, we were so having a great time playing with these science and mathematics and physics, and then we saw the atom bombs. What the hell did we do, Not that they said, what did we unleash? Because there was no emotional intelligence while they were doing these things. They were just in love with the concepts.
Right, but a little bit different. You talk a lot about the backside. There's the right way of doing things, and there's the backside, comes from
Right,
the back.
yeah.
So these guys, when these great Jews make contributions to society,
Yeah.
right, they are doing something through the backside. Obviously, much better if they did it within a Jewish context than that, but I still think, right, that it's still that Judaism.
Well, you see, from Marx, nothing good came.
You don't know.
No. This is
historical processes. I don't know.
the only way you can say something good came is exactly what Rav Kook always says, that sometimes you need a good punch to wake you up. This is what we got. We got communism and the death.
All right, to Hollywood. So get away from Hollywood.
No, this is good.
I see that.
And it's only good in the sense of sometimes the world is so stupid. This is Rav Nachman's famous story of seeing a river which smells like wine, is red like wine, says this is water. because wine does not flow in rivers. The ism, this will solve the world's problem, communism, socialism, whatever, and we took it on, and it caused torment. Likewise with...
What Hollywood? Take Hollywood. That's not the Jewish thing. It's a Jewish contribution. To me, it's the backside. I mean, I could say it was destructive, but it did do things. Look,
it is much less dangerous. It's not an ism. Over here we have something very, very basic. It's a very strong ism. Communism.
I can make an argument that the Zohar would have been even worse.
Okay, not too much.
No, I'm just trying to point out this came out of Jewish people, Jewish minds, yeah, using the left brain, a very materialistic mundane, and it was very important to know what atoms made up of, but even Theon says the investigation of the atoms can bring about great destruction, and that's what happened, okay? So simply I'm trying to say that even the Freudian concepts of trying to understand the way, it brought a lot of damage, because it's very, very, one sense, very certain things, just like communism, it's a wonderful thing, being all together. Freud has certain very basic things which are right, but most of it was just building too much on something which is...
No, but it did make a contribution, like Rav Ashlag and Rav Kook were affected by that. The contribution, let's say, was that you have to be sensitive to it was from the Tanakh, you have to be sensitive to the more sensitive part, the orphan and the widow and all of that. They messed up that they...
Who?
No. Rav Ashlag and Rav Kook were both...
Which ism you're talking about?
Were affected by the communist movement.
Yeah.
And it left something good, even though ultimately it was real bad. But it left a sensitivity.
But this is what we say, when you get punched to wake you up...
Yeah, it keeps that...
The punch is not worth it. You learn, it wakes you up. But unfortunately, you wake up. How many people did the communists kill? Their own people. So what does it mean left good? What was the good?
You know, the price
a sensitivity to the orphan and widow. Except that they made it, they twisted it and perverted it.
But look at what kind of a twisted way we need
that's the backside.
The Daesh, but this is really, really bad backside. This is horrible.
Right.
This is not like Hollywood.
No,
Hollywood is a little bit different. Or researching the atom and the atom bomb is it's not exactly Hollywood. You know, this is Jewish minds. You know, and Freudianism. It causes a long time there was a stagnation in understanding of psychology in the Western world, because these concepts were so powerful that people were not listening to anything else.
No, but like Freud also left this notion of introspection in the world, which they didn't necessarily have.
He's saying there's something positive in all.
Of course it's positive.
Whatever it left
But that's classic backside. If they came to the Jewish way, it would have been positive.
Yeah, I'm not saying no.
But I'm saying they always make a contribution.
what kind of introspection? It says, Kamaim you have it already from the...
But this is...
to wake up.
He's saying it's in the Torah.
No, Freud, I'm talking about from the world.
Allah.
Besides, I think you're talking about some...
No, we try to get back to the basic essence that there's two ways to advance in life. Bechokhmah, wisdom in the sense of Ezu Chacham Aroeh Tanolad, or learning through experiences. Okay, this is what the lesson always puts the emphasis. That we went through the galut, right, and we're learning through punches. We're learning also only through negative experience, because we're not listening to our real inner self, to God. And so, of course, the Western world, good came out of it. But just weigh what good came out of it.
The bad outweighed the good.
It's bad. That's classic backside. That is the way of the backside.
This is when the world is not getting fed from holiness.
On the right side.
It gets fed, but very little.
It gets better, but it's tremendous punches. I mean, horrible, like Daesh. Right. You have Daesh now. And of course, it has a purpose. The Arabs are learning from the getting punched, they're getting killed left and right.
No, but if you're talking about communism, it's different. They say in Lithuania, As I heard from Shalom Brat, he told me.
דיברתי עם יש פה מישהו הצופים, שיש פה שולחן. השולחן שלנו בפנים שם.
כן, קודם כל אין לה מפתח, היא אמרה שתדבר עם המרכז, דיברתי גם על השלט.
שלט כבר הם אמרו שלא, שאתה צריך לדבר עם ניר במשרד. פחות או יותר, כן.
Well, I don't know.
But it's classic back. I mean, but that's the way. That's what we're learning all this stuff. If you come from the front in a Jewish way, Jews will make a contribution through the back, and it won't be like the front, but it will be a contribution, as he said. And I'm talking Hollywood. He's talking comedy.
Sometimes it's from the front.
No, you're trying to make the point that like something good came out of this harsh thing, like 20 million in
Where we advance
by
but the hard
Stalin and
way.
20 million by the German. What good in it? Like you want to buy this in million shekel.
Right.
זאת אומרת שכל המוסר היהודי שצריך להתקדם.
Yeah.
We want to advance in the world, in our human consciousness.
I don't like that.
Since we Jews, we're not teaching them the Torah, the real thing. The only way the world was learning through.
But is it worth it?
Eventually, after World War II, there was a new awakening of consciousness in the world because of the Shoah. And then the flower generations, that people began to think differently, and this was the price. שיצא משהו טוב מזה שכן היה שינוי, זה לא טוב, לא רוצים ככה, אבל זה מה שהתורה אומרת. אם אתה לא תקשיב לי, אתה תתקדם, אבל למכות.
I guess it's in.
No, I'm bothered by not Daesh and Nazism. You can't compare. That Rav Ashlag and Rav Kook both found something in communism that was very attractive.
Yeah. But we see communism.
No, that was after it became bad. But the idea, everyone should be. You should take care of everybody. Of course, you didn't need it. Of course. Of course. No, but I think. No, of course.
אנחנו עין זין
But I
עכשיו.
think
זה המשך.
they got excited a little because they thought that there was a Jewish idea in this, like to take care of Hayatom Ba'almana. They saw, oh look, it's universal is taking up the Jewish idea.
Missing Ayin Chet.
But in the end, it was real bad, of course. It was, yeah.
Sorry.
So you're saying, forget it. What you need is.
זה בעיה, כן.
That's right.